Did I leave the stove on?
Salancha lads, welcome to the Opie-Verse episode 26. And tonight, my friends, is going to be a good one for sure. How are we, everyone? Welcome to all new subscribers and watchers of the Opie-Verse. I saw a lot of you have followed me over from TikTok, where we did the pre-show. Debricked, don't you start? Cameron, how's it going? Hayden, Tom's in the house. We've got William, Ultron. How's it going? Good evening, everyone, and all. How are you all? I hope you're as excited as me for this one. I don't think you are. Well, do you know what? Maybe you are. But we'll come to that in a second. Do you know, kind of unofficially, but as being a weekly episodic stream podcast, whatever we call these things, we should say episode 26 is halfway through, like we're 6 months in. Not strictly true, because I've done a couple of unnumbered special episodes and we've done weeks where we haven't had anything on, but let's just say we're 6 months in, which is a great milestone, and there's no better way of going from there. What we saying, Mike? You've just been described as the Molly May of TikTok. What does that mean? What does that mean? Is it who said that? The Molly May of TikTok. I don't know if that's a compliment or because she's a bit controversial of late. But no, welcome all. Welcome one and all. So yes, welcome to the Opie-Verse. For those of you who have not been here before, this is just simply a conversation between myself and another or other creators. And tonight is a good one. This person, it's an absolute honor to have this person on, and it is a testament to me to say kind of how far we've come in this time. The reason this one is so important to me is because, as a lot of you know, I started my creative journey on TikTok, and you know, a lot like others, started it in the kind of the start of lockdown, and kind of got on TikTok because my wife recommended we do, because it's a bit funny. I found my own niche within there in the kind of the Star Wars corner, and if it wasn't for this gentleman, I probably wouldn't be on TikTok at all anymore. And for that reason, I then went on to start creating, and then all of this exists from that. But yeah, I'll stop fanboying now, and we'll bring him out. I introduced you all, if you don't know, or if you do know, Mr. Darth Choco. Good evening, good sir.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going well. I don't know if you've ever had an introduction like that before, but it's well deserved.
I appreciate it. I just it was a wild time, you know, in pandemic for everyone, and man, I feel like the Star Wars community in general coming out of it pandemic is just incredible. Like, I felt it was very negative going into it, but now there's so many like awesome people with their own niches. Like, everyone has these certain little things that they love, and all of us are just talking about them and vibing now, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's almost like a rebirth in the way of a lot of people who have picked up the mantle of being a Star Wars creator. You can't seem to get that start anymore that you once could when it wasn't as saturated, being the controversial guy, like being controversial for the sake of controversial, because you quickly get sounded out for it. Whereas now you have to add value. You have to be a genuine creator. You have to find that, you know, as you say, find a niche in there. And there are some brilliant people who still now are kind of coming through and rising up pretty quick by having kind of open dialogue. And I mean, that's the best part, right? Is just talking Star Wars with, or whatever, you know, anything within the whole movie nerdy fandom, like just talking with other like-minded people, and because that's why I started, because my wife has no interest in Star Wars, even though I've tried to make her watch like many a time. My mates have no interest in Star Wars. So I was like, I need someone to talk to stuff. When I was sent home from work and I had to work from home for 2 years, I needed someone to talk Star Wars about. And then here we are. So it's a crazy time. Do you know, I've told my story so many times and nobody needs to hear it anymore. But as I said in the intro there, I probably joined TikTok around the May of 2020. When I followed you, I couldn't see it for sure, but it was probably that summer when I came across you, Jedi Connor. You were like the two people I followed straight out, and then it's stuck with ever since. But where and how did your journey start?
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of funny because I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, growing up, and my mom had this old VHS tape of Empire Strikes Back,
Yes.
and that was like, and the original version where the Emperor was a woman with like a monkey mask with the goggles on, and like all that stuff, and I was always just a huge fan of it, kind of fast forward till the prequels came out, and I was all in, but like they were pretty hated, especially in my area, and I felt like I was the only person that liked them. So then I would just pretend like I didn't like them, and like I kind of fell out of the fandom. But I always kept reading books and stuff like that, and then I eventually I had a job where I was doing a bunch of manual labor, and so I had headphones in all the time, and I also had discovered audiobooks, and that just accelerated like the amount of these books and stuff I was consuming. And I hit this point where like there was a lot of podcasts and stuff I was listening to, where they would say things and like, no, that's covered in this book, like not like not to be like a douche or anything, but like there are certain things that's like, oh, okay, well, they talked about it here, like, oh, I should start making content myself, is kind of how I felt. But I didn't do it for years. Eventually I decided, what, I'm going to do this. And I actually went out and I bought this microphone because that was like me putting some skin in the game. And a friend of mine had a podcast, and she did a Star Wars episode every year on May the 4th. So my very first thing was doing her podcast. We recorded it on May 2nd, 2022. And then I made my first 2 TikToks the following day. And just kept rolling from there. It's kind of funny. The second TikTok I ever made got like 350,000 views, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy." It's not.
That's how they get you.
I feel like they did that just to pull me in. But it's been super fun so far, and I've met like awesome people like yourself. So that's why I started the High Ground podcast, so I can like start bringing people on and having these conversations in mass, and it's been crazy. Like weird doors and opportunities have been opening, and I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, not just for yourself, but I've seen like a lot of people who have had such opportunities from the back of kind of TikTok and picking up a phone and talking to a camera and going from there. I mean, probably nobody more so than like Straw Hat, like his rapid rise to fame. But over here, like Theories by T is probably the biggest, like for me, probably the most well-known. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, because you might know Comic Talk a little bit better than me in the UK. But yeah, like Theories by T here in the UK is awesome.
Yeah.
But you just see like some just ordinary people now and who are like having all of these opportunities. And then I do think I feel a bit for journalists who aren't special, that what they are professional journalists. They are not invested in their media, in Star Wars, Marvel, whatever it may be, and they're unable to bring things to life a little bit more. It'd be interesting to get an actor's point of view from like being interviewed by a fan who is essentially now a journalist rather than a journalist who's trying to be a fan. That would be I mean, they're
Yeah.
getting.
Well, I mean, it is kind of like the normal evolution of things, but I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Where it's and there also does need to be some sort of marriage of the two, professional journalism with, because
Mhm.
there are people out here that just spurting out just bad information. um, but that's
I
why
would
I
see
I
as well,
love.
though. I do think there's the other side as well, where the problem you have when you get the ultimate fans is you get like the kind of the sugar coated view of it, like wow,
Yeah.
because like we've all just come out of the cinema. How amazing was that? Whereas at least a film critic, who's gone through a film degree of some sort, and
Hmm.
they know how to structure wording, and they know how a movie should be structured, has the ability to scrutinize in a very different way. Because if it was me, like Book of Boba Fett is the prime example, I'd be like, yeah, that was great. That was great. Great, wasn't it? Like, yeah, but
No, that's true. One thing I say is it's funny because I feel like a lot of us kind of started at the same time. Over there, I've been mutuals with Tyrell or Theories by T for a long time. I actually didn't know he followed me for a long time. Um, and but like I've had him and Andrew's Visuals is another big guy from over
yes,
there.
Scottish guy, yeah.
Yeah. Um, awesome content creator. And it's just kind of funny because like like Jay Stubes, I had her on the high ground a bunch and back because she had like 6,000 followers and then now now these people are out here doing things and like getting invited to premieres and I'm trying to get on that level, man. Like, it's like
It,
I wish I'd have switched to Marvel or something.
well, this is the thing, isn't it? From a Star Wars point of view, it's great that we're getting all of this stuff on Disney Plus, but like we are like, put it on the big screen, invite us down and to see these things. But we'll have our moment. We'll have our moment, I'm sure. I just want to say, by the way, Kenyon, I know that's you, and I know you've followed me over from TikTok to do this. But yeah, I the first time it's happened, but I can see you're donating through my PayPal. So thank you for that. I've totally forgot that was there, and it certainly helps the stream. But you went nuts on TikTok, so please stop. I'll take the link away. Like you just I mean, you donated like over 1,000 coins on there. It was ridiculous. So
Oh,
thank
right.
you for that. But it is very much appreciated, and it will obviously go towards the Lego collection in that regards. But yeah, sorry. So with you, I mean, you got started kind of the beginning of lockdown. You're probably one of the first to go with that then, because I think certainly people like me were quite hesitant. Like, I feel like I can add value here. I've got something to see, but I haven't got that confidence to do it. So great that you were very much ahead of the curve in that sense. And then like, what has then been your journey over like the last 2 years?
It's just been building up a community. Like I just started a Discord server, and people talk like I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I just like it just kind of happened. And but it's been interesting because I've been able to do certain things since I started reviewing books and stuff. They'll send me books early so that I can get reviews up and stuff like that. And that also is part of it that keeps me excited of like, okay, well now I need to like keep this thing going and keep pushing. But yeah, my journey has just essentially been to have as many of these conversations as I can, and
Mhm.
hopefully I'm a firm believer that the rising tide raises all ships. And so the more I can do, I had a little bit of a boost over some people, and I felt like the more I can do to lift up these other people, like the better the community ends up being overall. And so we've been doing that through the High Ground podcast and through the Diet and the Force podcast with me and Element 7. And it was cool because like Element 7 was my favorite content creator when I joined. And now he's become a really close friend of mine. And it's the distance between the content creator and the people viewing the content is really small on TikTok.
Yeah.
On YouTube, it's a great big distance, where you don't know if you'll ever reach them. But on TikTok, it's they're right there, and it is helps people understand like a lot more people could be doing this, and yeah, it's valuable,
It's I think the beauty and the value comes from having more creators, is the value of the conversation like this, rather than the value of a video that is a 60-second soundbite that really doesn't. It can certainly explain a few things away, but it sometimes opens up more questions than it answers, and it's like, how do I do this? But through open dialogue with more different creators, everybody with slightly different point of view, that is like real value. And I feel when you're talking about like YouTube compared to TikTok and even Instagram, there is clear disparity there, and to the value of TikTok, that it creates a community. And then, as you see with Discord, if you have a very active Discord, which I know you do, again, it brings you closer together, but it brings those kind of horizontals together, and it brings the community together, and then everybody just feels part of it, and people are more informed, and then from there people just feel the confidence to pick up their phone and go from there.
Yeah. So the actual original reason I wanted to build a community is I felt like, hey, there's no way you could actually like read books and stuff and be toxic, right? Because that's too much of an investment. It's impossible to do both. So that was the very first thing I started doing, is trying to get people to read them. So you said you started following Jedi Connor, and it's funny because as soon as he and I were mutuals, I was like, hey man, you want some Star Wars books? And so it was like the beginning of pandemic. We were both starting out, and I sent him a bunch of Star Wars books, and then that's how he and I became friends. And it's just been really, really funny to see these things develop. And now we have all these people who have spent the pandemic reading every canon book, and so it's now I'm not special anymore, but that's okay.
You are definitely special. I think a lot of people would owe their motivation to you, like me being one of them. A lot of people will say they are motivated by your openness, your knowledge, your whole vibe was just very kind of welcoming in, and like, let's chat. Very encouraging, to go and learn more. Like, here's the bite size, but if you want to know deeper, this is where you go further. So yeah, I think, it is that. It's one of those kind of moments though, where you're kind of then like, it's the whole Jedi master apprentice thing, where our apprentices and those who we influence should always exceed us, I suppose. Like, we teach them everything, and they grow beyond us. But
we are what they grow beyond.
Exactly.
And I'm still working. I saw Darth Walker in the chat. I really need to have you on. It's sometimes it's hard with time differences and stuff like that, but Darth Walker, Darth Veritas, quite a few people that I've been wanting to have on.
Those two are cousins, so that you would have to be selective about which one you got on first, because the other would lord it over the other endlessly. So yeah, but both great guys. I would definitely have them on there. When you look back over the last 2 years almost now, do you have a moment that you particularly like, your proudest moment? Because that can come in many different shapes or forms. Like for me, a moment, like the moment that kind of really made me think like I've achieved something here, was when like Disney got in touch. And I will stop talking about it, chat. I know I will talk about some time, but like before Christmas, and they invited me down to London, and I went to just like a product launch, and it had a bit of Lego there. Like it got a like cool little gift bag, which was awesome. And it was such a nothing thing on their point of view, but from my point of view, it was such a big thing. But I know you've done so many things, and there's probably stuff that I don't even know about, but is there a point where you've just kind of thought, I'm like, that really means a lot to me, or I'm super proud that that happened?
I mean, so there has. I mean, there definitely has been some cool things that have gone on with Lucasfilm. Reaching out, or different companies. I've been able to do things for like Warner Brothers with DC and with Paramount and these cool brands. But the thing that sticks out to me the most was when my favorite content creator, Star Wars Explained, invited me onto his podcast to talk Bad Batch, and so me and Element 7 went on there. So then I've been able to have him on the high ground. I'm going to have his wife Molly on soon. I think that was kind of like my highlight. I also I went on have been on Star Wars Theories quite a while, but the very first time was vaguely antagonistic, so had a little bit of a different feel, but we're definitely cool.
So have you been on again then? Because I think I've seen the clip. Did you share a clip of when you'd gone on his, and you'd asked him about, it was about his perspective of The Last Jedi or something like that, wasn't it? And is that right?
I've never shared any of those clips, but other people have.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
I've gone on there quite a few times actually, and recorded separately with Josh. And yeah, they're good guys, and even if and it's cool because even if I disagree with some of their takes, there's certainly places where we disagree, there's certainly places where we agree, but in the end, when you actually talk to someone face to face, you're like, we're both just fans, and
Yeah.
so we maintain like a separate little chat, and we'll just catch up every now and then, and it's pretty cool.
No, it again, I think that's the thing, to be able to have that dialogue, and go from there. It's you can, by open dialogue, rather than feel like you're speaking to a wall, or you don't have that ability to retort and explore further. It really opens up points of view on that perspective. I have to ask, actually, because we're going to talk Star Wars, of course, but obviously this week is a big one. And it feels very fitting that you're on, like, of all the people who were on. And then we got the Kenobi trailer. I know you've had a lot to see about it, but again, through the art of dialogue, like, what are you thinking?
I'm so freaking excited. It's bringing together, it's doing things I never thought it would, and it's doing them in such a great way. Like, there was the Legends book Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. It's a great book. I really enjoyed that book, but I didn't want the show to be that. Like, I already have that in a book. I mean, give me something different, and they are. So it feels like we're getting elements of that. It feels like we're getting elements of the Ahsoka book by E.K. Johnston. Because in that book, she's being constantly hunted by an Inquisitor, by the fifth brother, and this seems to be like an extension of that, just like that, but on hard mode, because we see 4 Inquisitors in this trailer. Also, being someone that grew up during the prequels, when there was hate towards them, because I also am, I'm no spring chicken, but I was also the youngest of my friend group.
Right.
So that also plays a role
Mhm.
into it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching Yoda flip around and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And they're telling me, no, this is garbage. Yoda would never fight with a lightsaber. That's out of character. I'm like, why? It's cool though, right? Like, um, but to see Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor come back and reprise his role is magical. It's something I never thought would happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, you can tell how much they loved these roles. I'm happy to see them get another shot at them. And there's just I don't know, there's just a lot to be excited about. We also have that Return of the Jedi line that I think about when Luke is talking to Vader, and then Vader says, "Obi-Wan once thought as you did,"
Mhm.
and I've always wanted more information on that, like because there wasn't a whole lot of like discussion in Revenge of the Sith. You know what I mean? I think we're gonna see him approach and try to bring him back to the light.
Mhm.
And I also predict that that's. I mean, we have to hear Qui-Gon's voice. I know they're saying it's not going to happen. It's got to happen. Like that's. I'm predicting that that it's going to be like second to last episode, and we're going to hear Qui-Gon speak to him.
So this could be reading between the lines, putting two and two together and getting 94. But you know how sometimes merchandise has the ability to spoil things sometimes?
Specifically Lego, yeah.
Specifically Lego, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to
Lego's the
put
king of that.
but they've released, I don't know if you've seen it, they're releasing this new part, and it's a translucent blue part that a minifigure will go inside, and it makes that minifigure into a Force Ghost. So it gives them like a blue glow. Rather than making a Force Ghost minifigure, you just put the minifigure inside. All of the pictures that have been seen with it are Qui-Gon. So then you're like, but then for me, I'm like, but Qui-Gon isn't a Force Ghost, not there anyway. So I hope they don't kind of change that. But he doesn't, he's not a visual Force Ghost anyway. He kind of exists as a voice. So I just hope that it's more the piece is the leak, and somebody just happened to have a Qui-Gon fig there, because it wouldn't be like Lego to have a set available that quick. But they've kind of started doing it a little bit. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I think Qui-Gon is essential to this.
We'll have to see. I will say this though, in from a certain point of view, A New Hope, we do end up seeing Qui-Gon as a Force Ghost talking to Obi-Wan the day of A New Hope, the day when all that stuff happens, and by that time he is able to constitute himself physically.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so he does learn at some point, and so we don't know what that looks like or how long that takes. But it was also confirmed that it took Obi-Wan 10 years to learn how to speak to him.
But he spoke to him every day. It just took him 10 years to hear back. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think I got that from you.
Maybe. But yeah, and this is picking up 10 years later. I don't. I hope that's what we get.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that really stood out for me is just how good it looks, like visually. And that was probably my lasting criticism of the prequels. And I think it is for a lot of people, is at the time, CGI, like George waited for the CGI, and CGI was like the best it had ever been, and he couldn't foresee it getting any better. So he went all in on the prequels. And you just think like how good the prequels would be if they were made like today, like they would be like visually, but it's just that thing at the time and all of that. And but yeah, it just looks so good. And I think that I really hope for both Ewan and even more so Hayden, And I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it'll be awesome. Like, I'm so excited for it. But I feel like it could be for Hayden that like redeeming factor. He has that audience now.
Mhm.
He has that fan group that he didn't have 20 years ago. He has those who can actually just come out and show him some love. And I think even the older generation hopefully will come out for him too and be like, yeah, you've nailed it. You've redeemed it there. So, but I'm interested to see how they do it. And the one thing I would see is I hope, and everybody might disagree with me on this, but I hope we don't get any trailers that show Vader, Anakin. I hope they just keep that one for the show because they don't have to show us anything.
Uh, Honestly, I know they said this was a teaser. I don't need any more.
No.
I don't like. I'm already. I feel like a trailer is made to get people interested in the project. You know what I mean? And so if it's like a relatively unknown project, then yeah, you got to show more to get people interested. We're already in. You know what I mean? Like everyone who is going to watch it is going to watch it already.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's a lot of people who are, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we'll see though.
They could have just done the fan, like the artwork that they're posting on Instagram and Facebook and all that. That probably would have been enough just to remind us and just drop images of the different characters. But yeah, I can see Tom is furiously typing in the comments and he's keen to get your thoughts on the brother, because the brother sister, the Inquisitor situation. Are there a couple that we don't know about? Do you have any thoughts on who is who, and especially when we go into, because they're talked about and certainly explored more in one of the Vader comics? Is it the 15 or the 17 comic?
Yeah, they're pretty explored in Vader 2017. We actually get a moment where most of them get directly named. But there are going to be ones that we don't. I mean, so they're all they're just numbered. But we do know that like around the Vader 2017 comic, Trilla, who's the second sister, isn't the second sister yet. And so, you know, we do know there can be more that are made after like the running of that comic. And I think that's what we're gonna see with with Riva. And then we have that other Inquisitor that's completely unnamed that some people are starting to suspect is Katuni, the from the children of not children of the Force, but from the arc on the Clone Wars where the kids go and get their kyber crystal.
Okay, yeah.
People are suspecting that the little girl there is that other Inquisitor that's unnamed.
Oh, I.
But we'll
And
have to see.
that would be a total Dave Filoni thing to do because he loves his connections. And
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense. They're all ex, or a lot of them are former Jedi, fallen Jedi, so it would make sense to bring them in. So, but yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I don't need another trailer. I think what The Mandalorian has shown us and Book of Boba Fett, I called this, the trailer that we get probably is covered off. All the footage that we get is typically covered off within the first 2 episodes, pretty much. And then you have a good run after that, whereby like it's all fresh content. So I'm happy with what we've got. Just I like surprises. So yeah, can't wait. I just wish it was. I mean, still 2 months away. It feels like because of the hype of the trailer, it feels like it's like next week. But yeah, it's cool. What were your lasting thoughts, especially now you've had a couple of weeks to digest it? What are your lasting thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett?
I mean, well, real quick, I see, I see someone still keep asking about the third brother. I don't think there is a third brother. I think Riva is the third sister. Um, but we'll have to see. I don't know if you mean the third brother or the fifth brother, which is the another person that we see
Mm-hmm.
in it. But anyhow, Book of Boba Fett, it's not my favorite, but it's one of those projects where I feel like they wrote it backwards. You know what I mean? I feel like they were like, okay, so Boba Fett is gonna ride a Rancor and he's gonna be shooting people, and Din Djarin is gonna be there, and like they wrote up to that scene. I really enjoyed the show. I did, and I think some of the earlier episodes that because I'm a very character driven person, so I really enjoyed some of those slower stories of him finding his family and doing all that stuff. Like that stuff really spoke to me. um then I feel like it got a little, we didn't delve into the villains enough, um in my humble opinion. Like, I couldn't give you the name of a single Pike,
No, no.
but they were the big bats.
Mhm.
And I think that was the weakness. And so
Mm.
once we were building up to this war to happen at the end, and I was like, I don't even know who he's fighting. You know what I mean? Like, we
And
didn't
it
get Cad
never,
Bane until the second to last episode
yeah.
at the tail end, and you're like, oh, I guess that's who he's gonna fight. But it
Mm.
just, that part felt weird to me. Overall, it's enjoyable though.
And it never felt like because of everything you've just said, it never felt like the Pikes were a credible threat. It never felt like they were actually going to win. Cad Bane was a bit different, but it always felt like, because of that deleted Clone Wars scene that everybody really wanted, and I like that they adapted it. But everybody, I think, again, was expecting that would be Boba's triumph in there. But yeah, I never thought about that. But it is a good point. Is, with we never knew any of the names, but with that, it never felt like they were going to win. I think the disappointing thing for me is it with Boba. It could have very much been just an arced finish, beginning to end series. But what they really wanted to do was either use him to further Mando or
Mhm.
further his place in the Mandalore. And I think more the latter. I think it'll all come good eventually, because I think Boba Fett will come back into the Mandalorian series. I don't think we'll get a Boba Fett season 2. I think if that was just about telling us what's happened to Boba Fett, where is he now, who is he now, who's with him. So when he's called upon and he shows up later, But I feel like, yeah, they could have done that a little bit better. But overall, I still really enjoyed it.
I mean, I was like squealing with joy in certain bits with seeing Chris Anton in live action. I myself am low key trying to work on a Chris Anton cosplay. We'll see if that pays off. um, there's a
I
lot.
mean, that would be terrifying. I mean, just imagine you're all dressed up and you're like, oh, I need something, and you have to just pop to the shop and pick up pick something up. Well, I'm in dress. It took me 2 hours to get this ready. I'm not getting out of it to get out of it. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be terrifying at the same time.
It would be but Star Wars Celebration 2015, I went as Mace Windu, which just mean shaving my head, essentially. But the funny thing about it is, when people would take pictures with me, it made me feel weird because it's just me. It's not like I'm in a mask, you know what I mean? So like, I feel like me, Brandon, is just in a bunch of family photos for all these people around the world. I know, it just seems humorous.
I wonder if any of those people have do you know, they've as you say, they've kind of created those family pictures, and maybe they've framed that picture, and it's in a study or an office in their home, and then they've just kind of walked past it. They haven't looked at that picture for 2 years, 3 years. They've been on TikTok, they've been on YouTube, they've been on Instagram or something, and then they kind of just walk past that picture and do a double take and be like, "That's Darth Choco." And just all of a sudden have that. That would be fantastic if that ever happened. But
actually, I gotta ask though, because it doesn't pop up all the time, but I've done a lot of work in tech, and tech has geeks, as you know it would. Do you get people in your regular life who's like, "Is this you?" and they found you on TikTok?
Not TikTok. So, well, okay. So I've got two examples. So my Instagram is, I think, with Reels, because a lot more people still use Instagram, and a lot of more of my like real world community use so like work, friends, family. And so I have an Instagram for me as Liam and my friends and family, which is quite a small one, and then I have my Opie-1 Instagram account where I post all my reels. And every now and then, somebody will copy a video or copy the profile link to my Opie-1 account, send it to my Liam account. You're like, is this you? I'm like, well, yeah, I think you can. I think you can see it's me. Yes, it is. And they're like, oh, no way. But what's really cool is with that, especially with the Lego stuff, it's amazing how much it's given people confidence to talk, like, who are like, oh, well, you know, I've been collecting Lego, I've started getting back into it and that, and how many people then feel like they've got a bit of a safe place who I know, rather than just kind of people who I've got to know, who then feel comfortable talking to me about it. Same with work. Essentially, this was made to be, I work from home, I work in banking. I worked in home before the pandemic anyway, but then when everybody else was going to be working from home, I was like, right, if everybody else is working from home, I'm going to have the best backdrop. So I went for this. And again, through work, the amount of people where you would go on a conference call, first time I meet them, they're like very chatty about it. The second time, they'd be like, oh, I've picked up this, or I bought that and bought that. What do you think about this? So, but yeah, the other side is like my main group of friends. I kept it very quiet. Like my wife was the only person that knew about my TikTok, probably till I got to about 20,000 followers, which was probably about this time last year. And I thought, right, I'm at 20,000 followers. I have no control now over who is seeing my videos. I have no idea realistically. I need to kind of put it out there and own it before, because like lads being lads, I'll get it rinsed for it. So if I'll own it. So I went to them and I was like, right, lads, here's the crack. This is what I've been doing. This is what I do. This is where I'm at. It's going really well. Like, just letting you know. And then they're all like, oh yeah, we've known all along. Like, we just kind of left you to get on with it. But yeah, so yeah, it's weird.
Well, because I feel like I mean, I used to say that after pandemic everyone is just going to be a lot weirder than they were, but that's actually not true. We were all already this weird.
Oh yeah.
We just didn't tell people, or we didn't have the amount of spare time needed to actually pursue our weirdness. And that we do now. We can, but and that's the funny thing is I never thought that I would be making internet friends like this on this level, but you realize like these friends are people who are friends because of like true shared interest that speaks directly to your heart.
Yeah.
And you realize a lot of people I know in real life, it's more about proximity.
Convenience.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, again, you and I believe, are a very similar age, but exactly that, you know, growing up, even like late teens, early 20s, like you didn't go and meet people off the internet. Like that was a very not done thing. Even so, I've never been on Tinder, but I'd used like previous versions to that before I met my wife, like for a little while. But you never even did that. You never were open about using online dating formats, like any of that. You were like, no, we met in a bar. We met in a bar.
Well, people our age had this one rule ingrained in us. Every person on the internet's a man until proven otherwise. so using dating services, it wasn't for me.
It's very true. Yeah, it's an awesome thing, and I've started to do it. I've met a couple of people, people like trading Lego with, people being out for like food and drinks with some people as well. We've got So Darth Walker being one of them. Because the good thing for us in England, particularly, but in the UK as a whole, it's pretty small. Um, I I came to America on my honeymoon, and I decided to drive. We what like two of our stops were San Francisco and LA, and I was like, "We'll drive it. It's not going to be that. It's the same state. We'll drive." Like 9 hours later, I'm like, oh, because I thought, oh well, rather than going the main, was it I-1, is it that runs north to south? I was like, rather than do that, let's go over to the Pacific Highway and come down. But obviously, that's a bit more windy and everything. Yeah, I was just like, no, what have we done? But obviously, here in the UK, it's all relative, right? So here in the UK, that's probably the equivalent of driving John O'Groats to Land's End, which is the furthest kind of land mass trip you could do. So it's like corner to corner of the UK, whereas you're still in the same state with probably another 3-4 hours to drive south if you want to get out of it. So
also starting in San Francisco means that there's another 3 hours north too. It's a
yes.
Yeah. Because I'm from originally. I live in San Diego now, but I'm originally from Sacramento, which is about the same distance, just inland from San Francisco.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a long trip. It's a long trip. We one time my family wanted to drive to towards the East Coast to Alabama, and it was going to be a several day drive, and half of it was just Texas.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Texas. I'm sure there are more than just Texas, but I'm sure with the UK as a whole will fit cleanly inside of Texas.
Oh,
with
many times over.
Yeah. So it's, but yeah, for us, that's one thing because it's all relative. So we think like 3 hours away is a long way away, but we've come to realize that actually it's not, and it's an hour and a half mutually, and we can meet in places and we can do stuff. So looking forward to doing more of that this year. And there is the, I mean, I don't know about what it's like over there, but we have like 20 different types of Comic-Cons now.
Mm-hmm.
But there seems to be a main one that's in London twice a year, and I think it's in Birmingham once. So we're looking at the October one of that, trying to get together and head down there. Because we've got the privilege of applying for creator passes now because we're TikTok guys. So
yeah. Well, it's because I've actually been working at San Diego Comic-Con for the past couple of years. Part of
is that the big one? That's like the big one. That's
yeah. That's the one that originated the Comic-Con name.
Yeah. That's like the one that they refer to on like the Big Bang Theory. Like that's the one they talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there's always other cons that happen in like Los Angeles and Anaheim and all this stuff. And there's a lot of us creators. There's a lot of creators who live in Los Angeles. Now I'm a little bit south of there. So like I've been debating with myself whether to go to, because there's one coming up on like April 1st. But there's so many like of these big creators who are there because that's their local city. And so yeah, I'll probably be checking out those places a little bit more now, even though it's like an hour drive for me, hour and a half, something like that.
So who is if you've worked at some of the big Comic-Cons and you've attended others, who's like the best person you've met?
Best person,
we'll say celebrity rather than creator, because I don't want to put you on that spot.
I mean, I met Mickey Rourke.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, actually at a Lego, he was in between booths. He was just kind of walking around. He was at a Lego booth, and was just talking to him there. So chatting with him, standing next to a big old giant Lego Thanos was pretty cool. But yeah, it's been I always run into just random people, or I'm standing there and I look over and I see people I follow on TikTok like next to me. I was like, "Hey, how's it going?"
I've not had that yet. I've not bumped into anybody yet. I've had it where I don't know if you've had this where I've been out and then I'll get home and I've been in like a public place and I'll go get home. I'll check TikTok and I'll see comments of people being like, "I saw you here today." Or it's every time I go to the Lego store, it's like, "I saw you in the Lego store today," and I'm like, "Oh, you should have said hello." They're like, "No, no, 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 no." All right, okay. But my wife insists that they don't say hello because she thinks my ego is big enough, and that's me being recognized. But yeah, one thing I'm interested to kind of explore a little bit with you more, because like me, and we talked about this briefly when I came onto your podcast. TikTok has this way of like pigeonholing us a little bit that we can only really talk about what we talk about. I kind of skim between Lego. I'm more on the Lego Star Wars side of things, but Lego is my conduit to talk about other things like Marvel, but certainly more Star Wars. Star Wars is obviously your big one. I know we talk about Marvel and other kind of DC, like that kind of the whole kind of comic fandom. But what else do you like? What are your kind of favorite movie franchises? Like what's your like favorite movie of all? Because everybody always asks me what's my favorite Star Wars movie. Nobody ever asks what's my favorite movie because I think they assume that it's Star Wars, but I don't think it is. So I'm interested to hear that from you as well.
So my favorite movie is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. If you haven't seen it, it's what I believe to be Jim Carrey's best performance. And it was a surprisingly star-studded cast, but it's one of those movies that like those movies when you watch it a second time and it's like a different movie and you're like,
Yeah.
Oh man, like this is what was that? It's definitely one of those, and it kind of just goes into the role that our memories play in shaping, who we are and what we would potentially be without them. A great movie. But yeah, but beyond that, I'm interested in everything, man. So like I grew up as a skateboarding, snowboarding, wakeboarding. I was really big in parkour. I was really big into those scenes. And also I'm a musician. Play drums, or a percussionist like almost my entire life. I also, play guitar and little bass and stuff like that. I love to write. I'm trying to write, but I have like 4 books that I'm trying to write at the same time, which is pretty stupid. But I can't help it. All right, leave me alone.
Are you like George R.R. Martin? Yeah, like right. Okay, I'm gonna write a little bit. Now I'm not going to write anything for 3 years on this book.
Pretty much, or like, okay, I write 20 pages on this book and then 20 on this book and then 20 on this book, and then like they just don't ever go anywhere because of how long it's going to take. Let's see, what else?
What kind
I
of
used to be a
music do you
big car guy. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What kind of music what's like your music? I know it's tough because we don't all just listen to one type of music and nothing else. But with you being a drummer, that's a very kind of subset of music. But yeah, what's your music of choice? Oh, okay. So what's the greatest album? And that's a question. What's your greatest album of all time?
Whew. Greatest album of all time. That's hard to say. So I grew up with I'm in the rock genre. I grew up as a what we call a Midwestern emo kid.
That's a very specific, yeah.
And so, but I do dabble. You know what I mean? If my go-to albums are probably anything from the band Thrice. anything from the band Incubus,
Mhm.
Inside Out by the Kooks, um, uh, let's see, and anything from Childish Gambino.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I bounce around a little bit, but like really bass driven music though is kind of my
Mhm.
thing.
Nice. Tom has commented, Tommy Lee. Um, have you been watching the Pam and Tommy show?
I have not. I have not. I mean,
No.
I was. I was live when that whole thing was going down,
Yeah.
but I was far too young to understand. My family, you did used to watch Baywatch together, and as an adult, I'm like, why? Why did we watch that as a family? That seems weird. Uh, no, I do plan to. I do plan to check it out. There's just been so much media coming out, and you
Mhm.
probably experienced this. A hard thing as a content creator is like I will sit down to watch a show, and I'll be like, I should be making something. You know what I mean? Like I should. I feel unproductive. When you become a content creator, you feel unproductive all of the time.
Mhm. 100%. And this is an interesting point because it's something I've kind of battled with quite a bit, probably over the last 6 months. When you try and explore new avenues, so whether you want to come in do more stuff on YouTube, especially if you want to make YouTube content rather than just go live on YouTube, but if you want to do a bit more on Instagram, because they're especially, you have reels, you have TikTok, but they are nuanced from each other. They aren't as easy as like copy and paste across. Even the reels that I do post that are TikToks, I do edit them slightly to make them more reel specific. But yeah, it can like burn you out, and it feels like you have to have your eyes on one of them. It's like, okay, this is my focus. This is where I'm really wanting to push myself. And when you're not doing that, you kind of stop that growth or you stop that engagement, which is it's pretty tough. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing I would say TikTok is your primary platform. Um,
It's definitely the primary, but I'm also, I'm heavily trying to build up in YouTube, but it's just like you're saying, I don't do nearly enough on Instagram. I would like to do more, and I just can't remember to. Like I forget, even if it says something as simple as reposting stuff, because you also don't want to repost it with the watermark and all that stuff. So you have
yeah.
to like do things to remove it. Um,
Do you not know the hack for
and
that, by the way?
Oh, I do have a hack for that. And what is your hack for that? I should say.
So it honestly, this could change your life if you don't know this one. So if once you've posted a TikTok, you go to save it to your phone, but then once the download percentage comes up on the bottom, once it goes past 0%, so once it starts counting, leave the app, but don't close the app. So go from like swap to Instagram, for example, then just go back, let it finish downloading. And then when you go into your photos, into your albums, it's downloaded and the watermark isn't there. It's an absolute hack. It shouldn't happen, but I saw one of these like, here's how to do this. And I'm like, no, that can't happen. And then yeah, lo and behold, it happens.
That's cool. Okay, I didn't know that. I actually have something that will allow me to download them later again without the watermark, but like that's additional steps. And like if you have something that takes 3 more clicks, that seems small, but then 3 more clicks over the course of a bunch of videos and then every day, like it adds up and it gets tiring.
Yeah.
But then there's other stuff like, okay, well now I need to become an expert editor in Adobe Premiere,
Mhm.
and that means I also need to get to learn how to build my logos and then screens and then enders and transitions, and be able to use all of that across the platform. Okay, and then you have to like there ends up being so many like pieces of it. So I haven't I got Horizon Forbidden West. Super excited to play the game, but I'm still in the very beginning of it because I sit down to play it and I'm like, I need to edit this thing, or it's just it
100%.
happens.
And that's
But
why TikTok is so good, and it's so easy because you can just sit in front of your phone for about 3 or 4 minutes, create something, sit in front of it again for another 5 minutes, edit it within the app. Just you don't ever have to leave the app, post it, gone, done, and it does what it does. And it's so easy to kind of churn out content. But when you come on here and you want to, like for me, for example, if I've done a couple of set reviews and you have to edit them, it's a whole thing. And you're like, but it's the time. So you're spending 2 to 3 hours making a 5 to 6 minute video that, you can make it a 1 minute video in about 10 minutes on TikTok. So,
and plus, people like you and me, like we have full-time jobs and wives, and so there's just, it ends up being a lot of stuff. And but the goal, is to make this self-sufficient, so like you can make content full time, and then that seems like that would be the dream, but there's like a long ramp up before that could happen.
Yeah, I feel like at some point you have to roll the dice, and you have to go when you're not quite ready, and that's a bold thing to do when you've got a mortgage. And I mean, I know I'm a long way off that, and to be honest, I'm so far off it, I'm not even thinking about it. Like I'm not aspiring to that, and maybe that's what kind of holds me back from kind of reaching those levels a little bit. But yeah, it almost feels unattainable to me right now. But then I suppose if 2 years ago you'd have told me I'd be sat where I am now with this many subscribers and this many Instagram followers and this many TikTok followers, I would never have believed you, and I would have said that was unattainable too. So yeah, but it's a bold thing. Whereas these youngsters, they're living without fear. I don't even know, right? So do you know on TikTok, do you know when people post a video and it's them and then there's the video above them, but they haven't used the green screen video sticker? I don't even know how people do that. Like, I don't even know how to use like CapCut properly, never mind Adobe and Premiere. And like, I can barely use iMovie. So I'm like, right, okay, just stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Yeah. The also, I mean, they make editing that type of thing so simple, where it's a lot harder to do on something like Premiere. But that's the end goal, is being able to just sit down, record a Premiere video, and then take that and be able to cut that in ways that it can go on different platforms.
Yeah,
that's the end goal.
Indeed. So I want to raise a question, and it's your question actually. And I raised this on my Instagram earlier on. But your question, actually, I'll let you ask it, because it was the way you worded it. I couldn't do it justice when I tried to reword it, even though I should have just used your wording. But around the quality of a sequel, like what makes a good sequel, but in the way that not just like the sequel is a good film, is in the like how it pays credit to the original and carries on as a sequel should. But you can word it better.
I know. I feel like you worded it pretty damn good yourself. But yeah. The question was, what is the best sequel? Like the best at being a sequel, of understanding the assignment, understanding the original film, and elevating it while being high quality itself. Now, I went to Terminator 2, Judgment Day, for that one. A lot of people were surprised that I didn't say The Empire Strikes Back, because that is my second favorite Star Wars film. Now The Last Jedi is my number one. Um, but I feel like Empire is the perfect middle chapter of a trilogy. I
Yeah.
don't know that it does the best at succeeding on its own, in the context. Also, I had a little hot take. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. You're about my age. You remember that one?
So is this the one where I probably did see it. The one where they were very cartoony, because I used to love the cartoon, the animated series mid-90s was like untouchable.
But this was the first live action one.
Yes.
The sequel to the live action one.
Yeah.
And I know that movie like was my childhood. I loved it. I loved it so much. But yeah, there's been a lot of amazing answers. Shrek 2, surprisingly good film. Understands the first one is better than the first
I've
one.
never seen Shrek. I've never seen any Shreks.
Oh.
My wife kills me for that one, because it's like Shrek is up there in her like top 3 films.
Yeah, solid stuff. Let's see. How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Never seen the How to Train Your Dragons.
Okay.
So I totally agreed on, before you even got to the answer of T2 on your video. T2 was up there for me. I had Aliens there as well, because I absolutely loved Aliens. It wasn't a great film, but I feel like what they tried to do with it worked as far as a sequel, but Predator 2. The way that it came into the city,
the one with Danny Glover. Yeah. Like in the chat, I see Winter Soldier, amazing sequel.
Got that one on the Instagram actually. Endgame. I suppose Endgame being the sequel to Infinity War. Obviously, it's part of that broader saga, but you could say that is the sequel to that little mini saga there. I do. So I've definitely explained it better here than I did on my Instagram story, because a lot of people have given their favorite sequel, like Star Wars sequel movie, rather than their like from the sequel trilogy. But a good. I don't know if I agree with this one personally, but somebody said John Wick 2 and 3 being better than the first one.
I've never seen 2 or 3.
No. So I think the first one is so good. How did you watch the first one and not watch the other 2?
I don't know. I really don't. And the other part is I only watched the first one like last year, maybe.
Okay.
There's certain things I just have these big old gaps. And so like right now I'm watching the Harry Potter movies for the first time. Never seen any of them, not one. And so I just watched Phoenix, and so I'm not sure when we're watching the next one, but so
what's your thoughts so far?
So far, they're good. It's interesting how the narrative of the films grows up with the actors. They get more the films themselves get more mature and a bit darker with each age. Prisoner right now is my favorite.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I'm enjoying the ride so far. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, I watched those for the first time 2 years ago. And that one is not my fault though. That one is my friend's fault.
This is about Harry Potter. So this was my point I'd made to Jedi Master Malk's question about it, about Harry Potter, that they're just on all the time in the UK. They do there's nothing else on. Stick Harry Potter on. There's a channel that just puts them on all the time. But we stupidly watch them. Sorry, you were saying.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, so the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I missed them, in theater and stuff. And then every now and then, it would come up. I hadn't seen them, and then my friends would be like, "Oh, that you know what that means? It means that we're gonna get the extended version, and we're gonna watch all of them in one sitting." And I'm like, "No, I don't. That's like a full day. Like I'm not ready for that. And so they kept putting me off from watching it because they were going so hard on it. But it wasn't until recently, and I watched it with my Discord server because Element 7 is a huge fan, and we have, I mean, there's a lot of overlap in our Star Wars fandom, and really good. Very long. The extended version, the regular versions are very long. The extended versions,
Yeah, it is super long.
border on cruelty, but but you don't realize how long they are because you're enjoying the ride.
Return of the best example of this is in Return of the King. You get to the point where you're like, all right, okay, we're done. Like we're done here. Like the big bad is defeated. Like, no, there's still another 45 minutes left. How? Yeah. It's but I think they're so good. And I think with Lord of the Rings, I think what it does so well is that it's kind of the opposite of Harry Potter. Certainly for us here, is you never see them on. They're rarely ever on. So, and I feel like when they are on in your head, they're like, okay, that's 4 hours long. I'm not watching that. But then when you're in the right mindset for them, you get them out, you put them on, and they're brilliant. I'm just going to explore. Do you know someone? Toy Story 3. I mean, it certainly counts as a sequel. It's a good one. Indiana Jones 2, though, Temple of Doom.
That is a very great answer. Indiana Jones 2. Toy Story 3 is one of those films that I just don't watch often because you want to cry at the end. I can't tell you the level of anxiety I got when you felt like the toys are about to be destroyed, and that scene lasts for so long. I can't do it. Have a good one, William.
Yeah, it's it does get you in that, and I've only seen it a couple of times for that reason. 22 Jump Street's a good one.
Yeah.
The way that they end that as well is pretty good. The second question I asked, and so you have unless you did see my story, but the second question I asked is, and this for me was prompted by Danny Trejo in Book of Boba Fett, because it's always really cool. And this is probably more, we appreciate it more in Marvel with the MCU, like who's coming into the MCU next, who's playing who. But with the now this wave of Star Wars content coming and over the next couple of years, but is there an actor or an actress who you would love to see brought into the Star Wars universe? And if so, what role would you like to see them being brought in as, whether as an existing character from comic books or books, or a whole new kind of generic type character, what sort of character they would play?
Interesting.
I'll tell you some that we got from the responses from the Instagram while you think, and they might they might bring something through. But there's quite a few people said Cumberbatch's Thrawn. But I don't know. Like, I love that they're using Mickelson. What is it? I forget his first name, because I always want to say Mads, but it's not Mads. It's the other one.
Yeah, that's his brother.
Yeah. But I love that they're
reusing
Lars Mikkelsen. I love that they're reusing him. Jason Momoa as Quinlan Voss.
Okay. So I need a good casting for so he seems like really physically large for the role, but I kind of feel like I want him as Eli Vanto, just like Thrawn's second in command.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want Jason Momoa in Star Wars. I think he needs to be there. Also, I need The Rock to play Geode in the High Republic,
Well, somebody
just
has
for
said
the
The Rock,
memes.
but yeah, somebody has said The Rock, but they didn't assign him to a character. So, um, yeah, good shout on that one. Couple for Keanu Reeves, mainly as you probably expect for Darth Revan, given the fan artwork that's existed. But somebody said, and it's a good one, to play Kanan Jarrus if they ever brought Kanan into live action.
Okay,
I could
okay,
kind of see that. Millie Bobby Brown to play a mid-teen Leia. That's
yeah.
tough on anybody. It would work, but it's a lot of pressure on
And
anyone.
I feel like Star Wars fans we hold too much like sacrosanct that um that certain things I don't, even though they could be done really well, that the fan base wouldn't react to it. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Well, on the Book of Boba Fett, I raised this question generally around: do we have to, like, in Star Wars, should we start to normalize new actors playing existing characters? Because it happens elsewhere, but the whole kind of Luke Skywalker and the deep faking and the criticism it got, but then the applause it got, like, do we just have to accept that Mark Hamill can't play Luke for his entire life and that somebody else will eventually pick up that mantle, and we have to show that actor the respect to let them make Luke his own?
I yeah, I think that's exactly what we need to do. We need to be okay, letting go. I think that I loved seeing Han back in The Force Awakens, but he also is very old. You know what I mean? Like he's it definitely affected his like movement abilities and stuff like that. Love the actor to death, but yeah, at some point we have to be okay with that.
Yeah, and the alternative is stop making Skywalker saga content, like move away from the Skywalker saga entirely and give us some new characters.
Yeah.
We have a conflict here, and now I can't see. Maybe I can see one more than the other, but we've got two contenders for Hondo and Naka in live action. One being Sacha Baron Cohen, which I could kind of see.
Oh, yeah.
The other being Willem Dafoe.
I can't see that at all myself. I could see Taika Waititi actually playing the role himself.
Yes. Yeah.
Um. Okay, so here's my true one that I want though.
Okay.
Okay. I need a Star Wars story where the main character is like from a place where he doesn't have money, whatever, has to kind of cobble together what he can, and has a droid that had an like incomplete or malfunctioning like personality matrix, and so he had to splice it with another one. So the droid essentially has like two personalities, and it has to be played by Nicolas Cage.
I'm all for it.
Just both regular Nicolas Cage and unhinged Nicolas Cage of like, because half of his movies are insane. And he's just both halves, and that's, yeah, I need that in my life.
Yeah, that would work, and I love that. Like like a shared body of two droid personalities. Oh yeah, that would be awesome. That would be spectacular. I don't even know. I don't think I actually had an answer to this one. Adam Sandler would be. Is Adam Sandler even acting anymore? Tom
Yeah.
Holland as Tom Holland as Carl Kestis. Now, obviously, Carl is played by an actor already, isn't he? He's played by, I always forget his name, but he was the actor who played the guy who we thought was the Joker in the Gotham series.
Cameron Monaghan,
Yeah,
Monaghan, Mona something.
but
Um, yeah, I would love to see Cal Kestis live action. Um, my wife loved the show Gotham. So I'm a massive DC fan as well, and I'm so happy that we got the Batman as a movie because they keep trying to give us things that are just Batman adjacent, and it's not like just give me Batman. Like don't like they take Arrow and then they make him Batman and he fights Batman villains and like all this
Mhm.
like like what's happening? Then they gave us to show Gotham, and then they gave us to show Pennyworth, um, and then we get Batwoman, uh, and we're like they talk about him all the time in the Titan show, and
Mhm.
you're like just give me Batman, like stop giving me Batman adjacent stuff. It's been killing me.
What did you think of the Batman?
I loved it. I loved it.
Mm.
I mean, if you look at my list of favorite movies, it is things like I said, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's the Prestige, um, and this very much follows suit of like that movie that you watch more than once, and you're like, oh, these are all these. I thought it really delved into his psyche super well, and there's just there's a lot. I could talk about that movie forever.
Have you rewatched it yet, or have you only seen it the once?
I've watched it twice.
Okay. How was it the second time? Because I absolutely loved it, but I didn't. I almost felt like I didn't have the energy to go back to rewatch it yet. And it's that thing, will I catch it just before it drops from cinemas, or will I wait for the kind of premiere TV release? That kind of period feels
Mhm.
right, but I'm interested to know kind of how it was the second time you went.
I mean, the second time you recognize because I didn't recognize. I guess spoiler alert. I didn't recognize that the guy that was like had all the problems with the mayor in the church was the same guy that said I'm vengeance that he took down. Like that guy actually did get radicalized in the film.
Oh, okay, I
Um,
didn't know that. The guy
I-
who he kind of disappears into the shadows as he sits back down. Is it that one?
um, yeah, the guy who's talking about stuff while Bruce
Yes.
is in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the same guy that was on the you know thing at the end. I also missed like the biggest thing is Batman comes from this life of privilege, and so when the Riddler at the end was like, oh, you missed it, like you don't know what's happening, and then it clicks like, god, Bruce is so wealthy and privileged, he would have no idea what a Tucker is. So he didn't pick up that it was a clue because it's just a it's just a blunt object to him, um, and there's just a bunch of little stuff
Mhm.
like that you're like, you know, uh, you see the similarities, but you understand why they see the world so differently, and then you understand why, when Bruce is in the church and he's walking with the lady running to be mayor, and she's talking about there's a lot more that you could be doing, and he's doesn't realize at this point in time that all he's doing is taking down the bad. He's not uplifting the good, and that's what he
Mhm.
realizes in the end. And
Yeah.
it's lots of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that his journey through that is also, because I think that's very different to the Dark Knight, where the Dark Knight always sees himself as having to be that kind of symbol of, and well, this, not so much that he is that symbol, but the Gotham City needs that symbol of hope, and he wants it to be Harvey Dent, and then he's happy to be the symbol for bad, so that Harvey could be the symbol for good. He understood that, whereas Bruce, or this Bruce, is
At
very
this
much
point in
young.
time, yeah.
Yes, yeah, he's very young to that and learning. So yeah, I hadn't considered that. So that really helps me, because one thing that I don't know if critical's the right word, but I suppose in a film that was just so good, anything that isn't kind of 9.9 or 10 out of 10, even if it's a 9.5 out of 10, it feels that so much further away. But it was the big talking point of, if anything, was that his Bruce Wayne isn't there, but Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne isn't as strong as like Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne, but you have to give it that context, and that's the context, right? Is like, look, Bruce Wayne doesn't even know who he is, never mind who Batman knows who he is. And we'll see how it develops, but I'm excited for it, for sure.
Yeah.
It's I'll just say, Kenyon, yes, it did come through. Please stop it. I needed to get that out. So, but yes, thank you once again. You've like spent. I dread to think how much you sent through on that. But yeah, thank you. But final thoughts on the Batman. This really is it. Like the score, and I can see Tom is typing some of the stuff out there. But the score was fantastic, and it was perfectly aged for it.
Yeah,
it
that's the other part is, if Batman came about in our era, this roughly is what Bruce Wayne would be like. You know what I mean? Like, he would have grown up as like an emo kid. But yeah, the score, the cues that Matt Reeves took from like Kurt Cobain, and the way that the score and the lighting is, we're very clearly watching this from the perspective of Bruce Wayne, or from the Riddler's perspective in a few scenes. And so the music is really informing us on that person's mental state, or who's running the room. And so you also get to their conversation at the very end of the movie, and their themes are competing. And you'll have, once the Riddler realizes that Bruce didn't solve it, his theme starts playing and takes over, and is louder, and that goes back and forth. Just certain parts are just really well done.
Do you know do you know sometimes when things go through your head, and you're the only person thinking these things, and once you start thinking them, you can't stop thinking about them, and that's all you can focus on. I had a proper Darth Choco moment when I was watching the Batman, and it was led by your commentary about Darth Maul stood behind the doors waiting for like Qui-Gon and like, no, I'm going to stand here. I need to be here, and like what was going through his head. And I was thinking the point where, I don't know which part it was, because there's a couple of times it happens, and the more it happened, the more I was thinking about it, where like Batman would go to the crime scenes, and then it was like full of police officers, and he would kind of just wander around. And in my head, I was thinking like, what are those police officers thinking? Like I just imagine there, if that was like me and my mates or my work colleagues, like why is there a guy stood over there in like 6 foot guy dressed up in full leather and a mask like that? Just like the real world applications of that. And I couldn't, because I think there's a couple of times where they are actively like, the background police officers are actively looking at him. And that's what I was thinking, is what are they thinking right now? Like, who the hell is this guy?
I had that same thought while watching this film, because it's very much framed the way, and I didn't know if it was just me getting older or the way it's framed. And now I'm thinking it's the way it's framed, but it's like if you were at your job at the bank, and then someone walked in dressed like Batman and then just never addressed it, and you're just like, what is this guy? What's happening? Like, or came in as his own OC.
Love it. Gotta love it. Starting to look forward, because obviously right now there has never been a better fan. And you and I know this, especially as kind of Star Wars fans from our generation. But the whole kind of nerd fandom, looking across Marvel, DC, Star Wars, there's so much to look forward to. it's never been kind of so well produced and connected and organized more than anything else. But when you look kind of short, medium, and long term, what are you really looking forward to across kind of all media, really? Because again, comic books are thriving right now, books are thriving right now. What are you looking at and getting you really excited?
Yeah, what I'm looking forward to, and I guess I'll also, I see the question in the chat of who would I like to see in the next Batman film. So real quick, I want to see Hugo Strange and Scarface. And if you don't know who Scarface is a like a 40s style mobster puppet. So there's a guy with a puppet, and the puppet is the mobster, but the guy controlling it almost is like acts as his secretary. The guy's not mentally doing well, but he's always been an
Okay.
interesting villain to pop up every now and then. But if all of these people at Arkham are being treated by Hugo Strange, I think that could lead to Hugo Strange being the big bad and like some interesting stuff happening. But the thing I'm looking forward to, or at least I hope happens, is I hope that both like Marvel and DC further define their niches when it comes to content, and I hope that paves the way for some of these independent books to start getting love. We already have The Boys. We have Invincible. We have Why the Last Man, which is a comic. We have like there's several other properties that can be free and creative and tell these new and interesting stories. And I think that the further defined Marvel and DC get, the more room we get for these other creative projects. And also I hope that they continue to inspire people like myself and you guys to also continue to create stuff, because we're in this space where the tools 15 years ago, like my computer right now can do more than the movie studios could 15
Mm-hmm.
years ago. You know what I mean?
Your phone can do more.
Yeah, and it's crazy, but right now we have amateurs, just random people on the street that are able to do professional quality work. And I don't know what's going on outside of my place. I don't know if you can hear that, but
We heard that, yeah.
I know I'm new and interesting storytelling. Also, Star Wars books. Star Wars books is in an amazing place. I don't know if you're all reading the High Republic. I love it, and next year they're going even further back in time. But again, they're staying away from the stuff that we know. They're staying away from the beaten the beaten trail, and are able to get weird with it. I think that's when things are the best, is when they're weird.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I haven't got to the High Republic yet. I read my comic books through the Marvel Unlimited app. So I believe the first High Republic run is on there. The most recent might be starting to catch up. I'm not sure. But yeah, it is something I will get to. I'm trying like mad to get through the War of the Bounty Hunters run, but it's just when you're trying to read it retrospectively, especially on the app. Have you ever used the app, the Marvel Unlimited app?
Not for a long time, no.
I mean, it had a bit of a lick of paint the last time, like late last year, but the interface hasn't really changed. And if you want to try and read it as like a reading list, like the common sense thing would be is you come to the end of a comic, the end of the book, and it will say you should read, Dr. Aphra or Vader or this bounty hunters spin-off and their soul book, but it doesn't push you to that book, so you have to come all the way out, try and find it, and then kind of come all the way back in. And it doesn't, it's very Marvel centric, and it's not great. It's not a great user face for Star Wars, for like searching and stuff. So it's not great in that respect. But then I do think like value for money, what a comic book's around £4 or £5 here, you know, and
Yeah,
you're paying
and having that
£8 a month.
backlog, yeah.
Exactly. And it's great for content creators because if you ever asked a question, you need to delve backwards, you can, Google it first, try and source it probably through Wikipedia, and then you kind of use that to source it from there. I know, James. I noticed I've just been keeping them talking for the last 90 minutes or so, just to keep the place calm.
I was talking about you earlier. I need to have you on. I've been trying to get him on my podcast, and I always have to find the right topics and then like work the schedules and stuff. But I look forward to it. If you're not reading, like if you're enjoying War of the Bounty Hunters, Crimson Reign is so good. It is so freaking good.
I haven't read it yet, but I need to. How recent is that? It's quite recent, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the third issue of Crimson Reign just dropped like 3 days ago.
Okay.
But it's a story that directly follows. It's right after War of the Bounty Hunters, and what it's doing to Star Wars and to the character of Kira. Shush kiss. Like it's amazing.
Were you? I wouldn't see. Oh yeah. Were you surprised Kira didn't make even a cameo appearance in the Book of Boba Fett?
Actually, no. I made $40 because I bet Element 7 that she wasn't going to be involved. He was certain. I was certain that she was not going to show up. But
Okay.
I think that's a byproduct of them not spending enough time on the Pikes, because if the Pikes didn't seem like a credible enough threat, then you're like, well, then someone has to be behind them or above them, and they're the actual threat. I think that was a byproduct of that, personally.
I think the thing for me, and I don't know what Element 7's thinking was, but it'd be interesting to chat with him about that. But I feel like it all made sense. Like, with War of the Bounty Hunters and the timing and how instrumental Kira was in that, and then Crimson Reign, and it like all of that felt very strategic and very well placed. But they would introduce her in a way that you didn't have to have read all that, but almost by watching it, it would push you to go and say, okay, I need to read and see what Kira's been up to. But again, we as Star Wars fans have this amazing ability to convince ourselves of all kinds of things.
And then when the actual thing happens, we're like, oh, that was so obvious. Like, how did I not think of that? What's wrong with me?
100%. It's
real quick. It's not really a spoiler because it goes into it in issue 1, but I'm going to give you like a little taste of what Crimson Reign is about. All right. So in Crimson Reign, we know Kira is alive. We don't quite know what the fallout was between her and Maul that we saw at the end of Solo, But we know now that this organization that we were just widespread, because we're seeing that in War of the Bounty Hunters, has one goal, and that is to take down the Sith. It is the Sith are ruling the galaxy behind the scenes. We need to stop that. That's what the goal of their organization is.
Okay.
How cool is that? And they're doing
cool.
it with all this, like a secret spy organization within Star Wars. It's very like Court of Owlsy, which it just makes me happy.
That's interesting because I wouldn't have thought that would have been the case, being a criminal organization, that essentially the Empire was kind of happy for them to operate, or passive for them to operate, rather than, trying to close them down, which I would assume that they are doing, which is driving Crimson Dawn and Kira to say, okay, we need to, because when is it set? Crimson Reign? Is it set after War of the Bounty Hunters?
Yeah, directly leads into it.
Okay, so that makes sense because I know she has confrontations with Vader in there, so that would kind of make sense that she's had that kind of first-hand experience. Okay, I am going to read that, and I do think now we're getting out again, and we have been a little while now, but I don't think we're getting locked up again anytime soon. But I can start getting back to go back to kind of the city and comic book stores, and I might start picking up some books as well because it'd be nice to have a couple of runs, and the High Republic book will be a good run to get as well on that. I have to ask, being a Lego TikToker and a Lego creator myself, what was the last Lego set that you bought or you owned or built or anything or you interacted with?
Let's see here. I had the Kylo Ren's TIE silencer. Had the U-Wing. But the last one I purchased was nothing spectacular, just one of the small like Mandalorian sets where you build a Lego version of Mando and a Lego version of Grogu. My wife has anxiety and stuff, and I am certain that building stuff would help her manage it. If I could get her to just sit down and build stuff. I can tell you what the next set is that I'm going to be getting, and that's going to be the Lego N1 Starfighter from Mando's N1.
It's such a well-designed set, and I don't know how they kept that secret. I have no idea how they managed to do that.
Oh.
It's I didn't know you collected Lego so actively. I suspected you might have had one or two sets around, but I didn't know you were actively collecting. Or have you had a bit of a gap?
Yeah. There's been a bit of a gap. So I worked at when I first jumped into I worked for a financial firm at their call center. And so I would build stuff right there at my desk in between and during calls. It would just make the day go by so much faster, because you're doing something and keeping your mind active and all that stuff. But I haven't worked there in a while. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm actively collecting anything. Plus, living situation, housing out here is insane. So I don't let myself collect because I know at any given point I'm gonna have to dump all my stuff and, if
that doesn't work well with Lego.
Place.
Just ask Matt Mellish, who has to move every 6 months and bubble wrap his Death Star every time he does.
I mean, his Lego Octo is insane.
Do you know, we haven't seen that on any sort of media. It must be now for 18 months because I think it's at his parents' home.
Yeah.
And it's like under a dust sheet. Like when on movies where they go into like an abandoned house and everything's like under dust sheets. At some point, someone's going to go in and be like, "Oh, what's under here?" and just unveil this massive Octo. But yeah, it is brilliant.
Yeah.
So
I would love to get into actually creating my own because I've seen someone create I'm a big fan of the High Republic. And we're not getting High Republic sets, and so I've seen people create Jedi vectors and stuff like that, and I love ships. I used to be obsessed with planes and stuff when I was younger, and so I would love to model out some of these. I have all the art of books and like the archives books for the prequels and the original trilogy, and I would love to create Lego versions of some of the concept ships from there.
Do you know what you need to do that? Time.
A lot of money.
And time, and money, time, and space. Something that as you get older, all depreciate. Actually, money, I always find that money is the least of those because I don't have time to spend money and I don't have anywhere to put anything that I can actually go and buy. But yeah, it's I am interested to see, because I do think from a Lego perspective, we're in a bit of a golden age, probably a golden age that we haven't had for almost 10 years in the quality of sets, and they're really pumping stuff out. So whether they would reflect and honor the comic book and the High Republic stuff, maybe, but I'm not 100% convinced. I think if we didn't have all these TV shows coming out, more than likely we would, because they'd be scraping around for something that isn't a Luke's land speeder. But yeah, it would be nice to get. It would be nice to get more of that and go from there. Just to loop back on that, who would you fan cast as the ventriloquist? So I'm guessing the ventriloquist is the Scarface, like the puppet character. I know nothing about this, but Tom is like deep in DC stuff.
Well, it'd be difficult because you need someone, because like this is like a traditional like 40s style Tommy gun, you know, Al Capone style puppet gangster.
Is that your answer then? Stephen Graham?
That actually would be pretty good.
Just thinking he played Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire.
Well, that's so you need the actual person, because it's not just a puppet moving around. It's a guy with a puppet, and like, so he's controlling the puppet, but almost like a separate personality, and like the puppet has the gun and stuff. Like it's really an interesting concept. But the guy himself has to look unassuming and unlike the puppet. And so it would take some real talent in order to pull that off. And I'm trying to think of exactly who I would put in that role. Yeah, I don't have an answer offhand. Although, actually, never mind. I have an answer. I want Danny DeVito to play that role.
Do you know, he would be? Yeah, he would be. Well, he was terrifying as the Penguin. I remember that Penguin growing, because he was just disgusting. I remember that. Like, he was
just eating raw fish, and like
just
hands and feet were gross. You know? No, but like he can play, you know, like an older guy who's really meek, while his puppet is like his persona in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, just like yelling at people and like being violent. I think he would be. I think you could do it. That's my fan cast.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we get them. On the so yeah, on that, just back to the Lego thing real quick, but yeah, generally didn't know that you collected. But what was it about the N1? Was it the fact that how cool the N1 is, and Lego were the first ones to produce the merch on the back of it? So you're like, okay, I'll jump on that, or do you specifically like the Lego version of it?
I really like the Lego version of it. I've missed building Legos myself. And it's a cool set. I have always loved N1 Starfighters. I have been advised against getting like gold or yellow Legos.
Yeah.
So and so like now's the time. Also, I'm a car guy, or used to be a car guy. Being a car guy is expensive. That's the most expensive hobby there is. Sorry, my mind just like flipped in, and I have my official answer for your second question.
Okay, go on.
Cillian Murphy
Okay.
needs to be Markion Rowe in the High Republic.
Okay.
That is the actor I need in Star Wars, and the role he needs to play, because he has that intense, like if you take him back to the movie like Red Eye, like that insane, but also he's control. He has like this like fire simmering just under the surface. Yeah, Cillian Murphy as Markion Rowe. Anyways, what was the question I was actually answering when I said
you said you were a car guy in the N1 Starfighter.
Oh, it's just a hot rod. Someone took an old classic ship and and just did some modifications to it. You know what I mean? That's yeah.
Indeed. And so James Darth Veritas asked, well, he just commented earlier saying he can't see how or understand how he will transport his bounties around after that, like in that ship, which I think they're seeing. But I think a lot more bounties will be coming in dead. They'll be coming in cold rather than warm.
I made a video saying like if he doesn't have Grogu, he'll just put the heads in a little bubble, and they'll just be like rolling around there. He's like,
I mean, you could even see it with Grogu, and Grogu just being in the bubble, playing with the heads. Like, as terrifying as that would be, but I suppose it begs the question: is what is the future of the Mandalorian and Din Djarin? Is he going to continue to be a bounty hunter, or is essentially going to be the one that reunites and reforges Mandalore?
Yeah. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold. Like, I'll go in warm. He's like, actually, I don't have that.
Yeah.
My bad. I shouldn't have given you that option. I forgot. Anyways, but it also is a small enough ship to where it could fit within another ship. So he could, I think the next step for Mando is to build up a little crew. But we'll see. And I need Quinlan Voss on that crew. Don't at me.
It would make sense. He needs a place. He needs a story, if nothing else. I think having read Dark Disciple a couple of times now, it's such a shame we didn't get that in the animation as originally planned. Whether it would have been as good, because I always think the written word, especially when the written word comes first, tends to be better. Things like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings are great examples of that.
Well, you get inner dialogue. You don't get that
in
other medium, and the nuances that come with having inner dialogue are just, amazing. But imagine Quinlan Voss, who has been a Jedi Master, who did fall to the dark side, who has fallen in love and had attachments, and returned only to have the Jedi Order destroyed. I can see like an older, scrubbed up, version of him who's just been kind of a bounty hunter, maybe not a bounty hunter, but just like a smuggler type, with this wealth of experience to be on a ship with both Din and Grogu and able to speak to the Force or to, I think that'd be really cool.
No, I agree. I think his role in the Clone Wars prior, like where we find him at the beginning of Dark Disciple, with him being like an undercover agent, and then his training to be undercover as a bounty hunter, it all lends to it. It all acts great in that respect. So yeah, there's a definite place for him, being undercover, and that's how he survived, because that story writes itself, how he survived the Empire. But a little bit disheveled, but at the same time, that kind of spark of light remains in him, because he's just that kind of nice guy, like almost like the opposite type of nice guy to Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan's like the ultimate kind of nice guy. He's like the jovial, mischievous one. But yeah, I'd be all up for that. I'd be up for that. That's for sure. I'm going to start wrapping up now, because we've been on for nearly 2 hours, which has been sensational. It's been good to chat. But whilst, guys, if you've got any questions, like final questions, start throwing them in. But over to you, Darth Choco, just to talk about kind of what you've got coming on, like what you've got going on in the next kind of week or so, or the next couple of months. Like, what do you have planned essentially? Because we as content creators tend not to be that organized and tend to be planned a couple of weeks or months in advance. But to note to everyone, if you're not already, which I'm sure you already are, but Darth Choco's links are linked below, so you can check him out and find him across all of his platforms, because you might find that he's on some that you didn't even know he was. So yes, over to you.
Yeah, so this Wednesday, I do the High Ground podcast, which is live on YouTube, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So for all of you in the UK, that's like 1 a.m.
It's 12 right for now. It's 12
for now. It's midnight. Okay.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks. So take advantage of it, because our clocks haven't gone back forward yet either way, but yours have, so it gives us an hour. There you go.
Yeah, see, it's early. It's early. And so this week I'm gonna have a bunch of amazing, female creators from Star Wars, and TikTok and on Twitter and YouTube come on, and because it's over here it's Women's History Month, so
Yes,
we're gonna do an episode on that, and so I'm really excited about that. I am applying to hopefully be able to have a panel at Star Wars Celebration where I get to host an episode of podcast there. So we'll see if that works.
Did you get your ticket? Because I saw your thing about the tickets have been released, and did you get one?
The tickets are being released this Tuesday. Okay. And I'm trying to get one as a exhibitor, but we don't find out if we get that until April 1st. So I got to get one
as an insurance, right? Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and pay attention to the podcast going forward. Hopefully I'll be having you on again, and Veritas and Walker, definitely want both of them to come on for the first time as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Do you know, as I say, I'm planning to be in Vegas, so we'll be on the same timeline. So maybe I will link it up, and I'll do it then, and then my wife can be by the pool, or she can be at the slot machines or something, and I'll be in the hotel room doing the High Ground podcast at a reasonable hour for me. In that one, Mike, you never know if Darth Choco finds himself in Vegas in the first week of June. Maybe we do the Opie-Verse in person. I would love to. Have you had the chance to do one of your podcasts in person yet?
I have not. I've actually only hung out with very few people. Like I met a couple at Comic-Con, but I got invited for Venom to a rage room, and so I brought Element 7 with me, and then we met up with Camilla, Bodico Wookie, and Xanthi at the Star Wars Music Minute, and so us four got to hang out. That was really cool. But yeah, other than that, we haven't been able to do much. But we will be doing that at Star Wars Celebration regardless. So if that means, we'll be recording some episodes of stuff in our hotel room, then so be it. But we'll be able to do stuff in person and with other creators. So that'll be cool.
That would be cool. Because I feel like, as good as this is, the dynamic in person is just so much slicker. It'd be so much fun. James, your question, I can see your second comment saying about in Star Wars, but what is your biggest what if? So Star Wars what if scenario you'd like to see?
Oh man, there's way too many of them to go into it. But I want to see a what if. What if they didn't run out of fuel? What if Anakin was left on Tatooine? Would he just have become like the greatest racer of all time? Would he still have gotten eyes from the Sith? If he's outside of the Republic, would he fall into something else? I think that would be really cool. And then feel like a lot of my what ifs are revolve around Anakin. I also want to see a version of Anakin who um, is brought to the Jedi Council, and they're like, Obi-Wan, no, you can't do this. But Mace Windu takes him on as an apprentice. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. I think I have two. One is not mine, but somebody said this, and I thought, oh, that would be actually really interesting. What if Luke had gone to the Organas and Leia had gone to the Lars, because I feel like they would have been two very different characters. I think Leia's strength and just stubbornness to continue to grow and be that person she is would have like really shone through. But I could almost see Luke just being like a little preppy kind of prince on Alderaan, kind of, like a little bit entitled, maybe very entitled in that regards, whereas Leia would be kind of out bullseye and womprats all of the time. My other one, I think I mentioned this on the first time I came on the high ground, was because everybody always talks about the fall of, the potential turn of Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi. Realistically, the more you know, that was never really going to happen. Although he had that fit of rage where he attacks and defeats Vader, he quickly gathers himself. He was never really truly weak there. He allowed himself and put himself in that position. But at the end of Empire Strikes Back, he is weak. He is confused. He feels abandoned. Vader reaches out, speaks to him on the Millennium Falcon. They're just about to get them. R2 fixes the hyperdrive and they go. So mine would always be, what if R2 had not fixed the hyperdrive? They'd pulled the Millennium Falcon in and Luke was then subject to Vader in that moment. Because I think at that point he would have turned.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, I would absolutely love to see that as well.
And then the final one, Tom, I can see you've asked a couple, but we're going to go with this one. Because do you bite ice cream? I don't know. Some people do. Some people do. But was that the back of Tamura Morrison's head and the Grand Inquisitor was interrogating in the Kenobi teaser? I feel like it is, right? I mean, we've seen the white and blue armor.
I feel like it is, but I don't feel like it's Rex.
Okay. Like another 501st clone?
And that's the thing that throws me off is the coloring on it, because I mean, and who knows, maybe it's not actually blue, maybe it's more grayish, and we're going to run into like wolf or something like that. But also, I think if anyone, we should see Cody if they're looking for Obi-Wan, and the voiceover on the trailer keeps saying he and him, it means that the person he's talking to knows who he's talking to or about. And I don't know, hopefully that's Commander Cody. I think that'd be really interesting. And no, I do not bite ice cream. My teeth were just always sensitive. I never made it to that point.
I just don't feel like it's an enjoyable way to eat ice cream, personally. I feel like it kind of goes against how ice cream enhances the senses and embraces them, for me, personally.
Yeah. Personally, I taste things through my tongue and not through my teeth, and therefore it's much more... I don't eat it like a monster.
And there's your answer. But yeah, it's a good point, because I think with the Cody thing, one, I'd love to see Cody, because I know we know bits of his story, probably a loose progression of him through the age of the Empire. Be great to see that at kind of within a finite window of time, and really get some dialogue from him. And I think more than anything, from what I know, is see his conflict of like how the world has changed and his regret for what he does, but also that he realizes that he's stuck in the role that he's in. That's kind of how I would perceive it to be.
I think I have a new what if.
Okay.
What if Luke was given to either either Sabe or one of the other handmaidens that were treated like a sister, or to the Naberries. Like they had more family, you know. Um, but specifically, if Luke was raised by someone like Sabe, who is always trying to figure out what actually happened to Padme because it never made sense to her. I don't know.
It would be good. It does beg the question as why they didn't. I suppose you could argue, why did they not send the kids to Padme's family? And they would be like, well, because he'd figured that they'd be found out. But okay, so why send them to Anakin's family, kind of, but at least let Luke, but they've also let Luke keep his father's name, so like there is much logic sending them to Padme's family than there is to Anakin's family. So I could certainly see that. But yeah, I love the what if story. I don't know if I ever want to see it. I feel like it's great. It's a great dialogue piece to have and to explore. I don't know. It'd be tough to see how it would play, but I suppose if they did it right, it could be a lot of fun. But I will officially wrap up on that note because we are past our 2-hour mark, but by much, not the longest we've ever overrun by for sure. But I'm conscious that when we're talking Star Wars What If, we could very easily overrun by a long time. But Darth Choco, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you on. I'm sure we will speak a great many times again, but a personal thank you from me, both for coming on, but also for being an inspiration both to myself, but also to the community, because this community appreciates you for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I didn't even realize it was 2 hours, so I appreciate it.
That's always what we want to hear. Thank you, everyone, for partaking. Thank you for being as active and chatty in the comments as ever. Next weekend, so I don't know how much you know about Scottish people, Darth Choco, but one of our fellow Lego creators, so one of my stipulations for this is I always want to keep that segregation between this and TikTok. I always say that I want the creator to be 18 or over, just to keep it, because it's not adult themed, but it's more mature level of content that we have. One of the guys has been kind of asking to come on. Well, he asked when I first set up the Opie-Verse. He's 17 and it's his 18th birthday next Saturday. Obviously, in the UK, when you turn 18 is when you can legally drink. So he's coming on Sunday, the day after he turns 18 and he can have his first legal drink. He believes he will be okay. I'm not convinced. He's Scottish though, so he's probably been drinking since he was 13 years old. So we'll find out. But
it's in the mother's milk.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. And on that, I will bid you all a good night, a good afternoon, wherever you may be. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you, everyone.